All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Javil, and nice to have all of you here back in the lounge. I guess many of you have kind of missed me. I was um, away from actions for quite some time. Yeah, it was just kind of I was on reservice and was busy back at work and all that. So I finally got time to be doing this, right? Um, Today we're gonna have a very interesting topic, and I have a very interesting and special guest. I have Haikal. Hello.
Hi everyone. Haikal here.
Yeah. So maybe we should tell everybody something interesting about me and Haikal, like how we met. It's a very serendipity kind of thing, I would say.
Uh-huh.
You want to
Yeah.
explain, Haikal?
Well, I mean, we met in reservists. I mean, we've never known each other before. We met in reservists. Well, I'm Javiel's commander. So that was, I think, what, 4 weeks ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were in this, we were doing our Loki, and we're in the group of people who has not gone for, who have either not touched the SAR 21 for a long time or haven't touched it before. I come from the batch that hasn't touched it before because before I got called up for my first reservist, it was like 13 years. So yeah, I met Javiel during reservist. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't really talk until there was, we were going for our shooting the next day, right? I think it was the real shooting.
Mm.
And then because I have not gone for reservice for so long and have not touched the weapon for so long, and I was like in this kind of fear, and then here comes a message in the WhatsApp group and say, if you need to talk to somebody about that anxiety, you can reach out to us. And I was like, okay, I can speak to this person called Haikal, right? Because was our sergeant. And then next moment, like he was in my bunk and we were talking, and then I realized that he was a psychologist. He is a psychologist. And I was like, oh wow. And yeah, and then normally, after reservice ends, people just go on their own way, and then you kind of see each other annually again. But then he kind of connected with me because we know of a common friend in the
We have
social
a
service
few,
center.
we are quite a number. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So and so yeah, so that's how we kind of connected. So it's a very interesting world
Mm.
process and how we got to know each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the reason why I actually got Heiko with us is that because I think recently we have um, heard a lot of stories, right? I guess locally in Singapore last month or so, we have heard too many workplace dramas revolving bosses, right?
Mhm.
And to all of you here who's thinking and assuming that by coming here you will get some tea on what's going behind the scene and all those dramas, sorry, we are not involved. Okay, we are not going to talk about all we're not going to talk about those specific incidents. But we want to kind of decipher it and break it down from the point of psychology, or from the point of organization psychology from my end, and psychology generally from Heiko.
Mm.
Yeah, so sorry to disappoint if you just join in and you want to get the latest update. Sorry that there isn't, just
I
to
don't
let
have
you
the
know.
time to be on
Yeah, we don't
that.
have the yeah, so we want to talk about toxic workplace, right? And I think many of us have read a lot of articles recently after Shinzo saga and all that, But the thing about toxic workplace is that it's actually not a new topic, right? It has always been around, all right? For those who have been working, you have seen it, right? You have seen how some of our toxic behaviors, which later Heiko can shed some light, on what are
Mm.
some traits of toxic behaviors. And to those who are like, you're just fresh out from uni, you have never known what is a toxic workplace, this is a good session for you.
Welcome to the real world.
Welcome to the real world. There is a very interesting thing when Shonda Rhimes. I'm not sure how many people know Shonda Rhimes, right? So she's a writer for How to Get Away with Murder and Grey's Anatomy. And when she was talking to a bunch of the graduating students, right, she said something like the same as Heiko. She said, "Welcome, graduates, to the real world. You're starting from the bottom of the society, right?"
Mm.
So yeah, Yeah, so I think this session will be very useful for those who maybe just you're going to join a new workplace, be it you are just a fresh grad or you are transiting because it's a new year, you're getting a new job. And with all this saga and stories that you heard, you perhaps want to just kind of prepare yourself, right, and know how to manage. And for those, perhaps some of you are in that kind of workplace and you just do not know how to navigate through. And so today we want to talk about those
Mm,
things. Yeah, so without further ado, right, I just want to throw this question to Haikal, right? How
right.
do we go about defining toxic workplaces? What are some of the traits that we see in toxic workplaces?
Right. So toxic workplace is a very broad thing. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of factors that will make a workplace toxic. It would involve the culture of the job, all right, the culture of the workplace, how things goes. You can look at the leadership in the workplace, the expectations in the workplace, all right. So I'm just going to go through with these three first. There's actually more. So when I'm talking about the culture in the workplace, right, how things are, and I've seen clients who I'm talking from my experience as a psychologist. And if I do tell stories, I'm going to change about like 50% of stuff. So if you think that, hey, this guy talk about like my cousin or my wife or whatever, it's not okay.
No,
So
no, no tea, no tea, no tea,
yeah,
bro.
right. So for the culture, for example, right, there are some places where it is expected that you work more than 15 hours a day. I don't know, but there are some places where, oh, this person comes in at 6 and then leaves at sorry, comes in at 9 and then leaves at 6. Wow, he has poor work ethics, because for us here, we work at 9, we leave at 10, right? And that's an example of a culture. And because you are being in that normal, well, to you this feels like, well, this is a normal environment, especially for those who have no prior experience, right? This seems to be the norm, especially from when you started school. Well, with school, there isn't exactly a specific, well, in uni especially, there isn't a
Mm,
specific, like, well, you start at 9, then after that at 6 you tell your lecturer that, what,
mm,
I'm not going to do my homework, I'm going to just watch TV. No, you were expected to do your revision over at your own time,
mm.
and that somewhat continues in the workplace as well. So that's one culture. Leadership. Sometimes you have leaders who are toxic themselves, right? Leaders who, well, have very poor poor skills in terms of managing, leaders who are unable to lead their staff, leaders who, well, are not capable but try to showcase themselves as being capable and use their staff to cover the limitations that they have. All right. And I think the other one that I mentioned just now was about the expectations in the workplace, right? What is expected of you? And in this workplace, they may, whatever is inside your job description. Now there's always this thingy which says, any other expected
Task assigned.
task assigned by your supervisor. Well, what does that mean, right? It means nothing, but it means everything. And sometimes the organization or the manager will say, well, this is the extra task that I'm giving to you. For me as well, I come from well, I'm a psychologist, but before I was in my own private practice, I was in, well, social services, I was in hospitals before, and sometimes I have to do funny things, like, well, doing charity talks, right? Going to organizations, doing charity talks to raise funds. I'm like, well, no, I don't really like to do this. Yeah, but Michael, you're a good conversationalist. You can engage people. No, go ahead and do it. I'm like, okay, yeah, but I want to focus on being a psychologist. But, well, these
Right.
are the other roles that you have to do as well. So it is really broad. These are just the three things, and I guess we haven't even gone to the bullying part of it as well. All right. So I would say that there's many factors that will be involved for a workplace to be considered as being toxic.
Okay, right. So
Mm,
so I guess it's really like a whole range of things, and I think so it ranges from that kind of culture whereby perhaps it's just unrealistic expectation, right?
mm,
Just pack of workloads and all that is beyond reasonable means, right? I mean,
yeah.
OT is understandable, right? But the thing is, you must have a reason why you OT. Perhaps for a lot of friends who are accountants, right? That maybe beginning of the month or ending of the month, that OT. But if it's like every day you are like doing OT, actually you don't even know whether that work or that workload
Mm,
deserves an OT or not, but yet you are doing it, right? Then that
mm,
could be it. Leaders. So again, we have seen some classic examples, how certain leaders are perhaps manipulative, right, to get certain things done. Or of course, we also have seen those who are very abusive. I think many years back, and these are perhaps during my maybe 10 years ago, maybe I'm about the same age as Haikal. I'm not sure you remember, there was this very classic case of an intern in a tech company that was being bullied by a supervisor, right? I think it was captured, right? Someone was actually capturing
The one got
right?
Right.
That was huge. That was really huge. So we do see this, unfortunately, in workplaces, right? And it's not like, unfortunately we do see that, right? So I understand that it covers a wide spectrum. So maybe we just pick up certain things that we want to talk about. And just I think you also mentioned about workplace bullying, right? So what exactly is workplace bullying in the form of in the definition of psychology, right? Sometimes we crack jokes with people, right? Because we know a colleague very well, and we can't crack jokes. But where do you draw that line between, say, this is a workplace bullying versus this is just a normal cracking of joke?
Yeah. So with normal cracking of jokes, right? The harm, there's no intention of harm, right? With bullying, I think the main thing that's involved in bullying is the use of power over another person, right? And this power, it doesn't have to be, the thing about power is that it can be it's a social power, it can be a physical power. I think these are the two main ways to categorize them: physical and social. In psychology, they say that, well, females, they tend to do bullying in a more social way, like they gang everyone up, like don't friend with this person, don't talk to this person, sabotage. If we have something, we don't bring that person, we isolate them, keep them out of the circle. Well, that will constitute some form of, it's a bit more, it's not so obvious, but it is a form of bullying because it involves some power. You are pulling people away from another person's circle, right? And you also have the more of the physical bullying. Well, the very extreme one you mentioned just now was you slapping your not you, but exactly that supervisor who was slapping his intern, right? And in the modern day, it would mean things like using threat. Threats doesn't have to be physical threats. It can be threats of certain consequences. If you don't do this, then this thing is going to happen. If you don't do this, then this thing is going to happen. Of course, you may think like, well, I'm sure my boss said this. I'm sure this person said, well, there's a difference between trying to impose the power. Again, I'm saying about the power, right? Of course, if you're not performing to expectations and your boss said, well, if you don't do this, then of course this will happen, right? The clients will not be happy or whatsoever. Then, well, that is following the expectations. But if this kind of threats is because it benefits more of the person itself, then it become, I would say, that constitutes more bullying. So bullying, generally, you can think of it as more of the social bullying, or the other one would be more of the physical kind of bullying. Yeah.
Right. And are the impact the same, like which is more impactful negatively?
I would say the impact, of course, the impact will vary on the person who is on the receiving end of bullying. But with social bullying, the impact will be more of a sense of isolation. I think the impact will be more in terms of the person's emotions, right? You feel unsupported, you feel isolated, and when social bullying comes, there will be things like gossips, rumors, backstabbing. You don't feel that sense of emotional safety. When you go to work, you don't know what people are going to say about you, who you're going to eat lunch with, what's going to be the new rumor about yourself. There's no emotional safety. With physical bullying, then it'll be more of the it's again lack of safety, but with the effects of on your physical safety. All right, if your boss is slapping, of course you don't. Yes, of course, emotionally be affected, but there will be also the physical, like, okay, am I in this safe environment? Both. It will lead to this feeling of, well, I'm not really safe right now. You don't feel that sense of security. And that's where the toxicity in the workplace comes in, because when you are in a toxic environment, it takes more from you than it should. When you go home, be it if you have your own family or you are not, right? You will still be thinking about the next day. You'll be thinking about, well, I need to do this so that I don't get these consequences. You spend your mind will be more at the workplace than it should be, because there's this fear, there's this lack of safety that a person feels due to the effects of that power that is being imposed onto them. Yeah.
Okay, when you say this, I start to feel the goosebumps. Yeah, because I've personally seen such examples. In a parallel world, I hinting is in the parallel world. So in this parallel world, there's another me, and that another me actually saw something. So what happened was, I think just now you mentioned was right, the social power, the social bullying. Right? So in that parallel world, that Javier actually saw something, which was actually there was a new staff who just joined the organization. He's a little bit aged, like he's a little bit old in that sense, but he has a good heart. Like he's a very nice person, right? But he just joined and just do not know what happened, right? There was a bunch of staff who were in the same team as him, right? Just totally like ostracize him. Like whatever he does, they will comment. Like he's new, right? So maybe they will teach him something when he gets something wrong. But you can obviously sense that it was really like, they were not pleased.
And what was it about this guy that they did not like or were not?
That's the funny thing, right? Even because we are all in the same team, but I never kind of understood why. I never understood why. And it's a classic example. It's really the funny thing was it was a whole group of ladies against him, which I don't even see what's the link, right? But it went so bad, it was so bad, So ultimately he left. And the worst thing, because when he left, they actually end up celebrating in the office that he left.
So they chase him out.
I mean, in that kind of space, he perhaps found like he couldn't stay on, right? I mean, why would you succumb and yourself to this kind of thing every day, right? I mean, and all that. So he left, and it actually struck me very, very hard and strongly, because I felt that back then I could have done something. I didn't do anything to stop it, right? I didn't do anything, but because I also witnessed that social bullying was so strong. In a way, I guess I didn't want to get involved, because I felt like if I were to come in to intervene, which I should have, I regret for not doing so. But back then I didn't do it. I felt that if I were to do it, right, the social bullying, that focus would then be pivoted.
Will go to you.
Yeah, we'll go to you, right?
This is me being a psychologist, you'll be curious. How's your relationship with these ladies then?
Oh, I kind of know, like, we just can remain as colleagues. I don't feel that we would be friends. I mean, let's be honest, right? Not everybody at your workplace will be your friend, right? So you have to draw the line. So I kind of know that, we will keep it as a very professional distance. Yeah, but that whole incident made me realize that, wow, like, the power of dynamics and the power of influence, because it only started with like 2 ladies and then end up it spreads, And the thing is, like, if that person had done something wrong, maybe we could have clarified, we could have brought it up, we could have surfaced it, right? And then have an open conversation about it. But it wasn't. Everything was in the dark and all that. So, yeah, so it really struck me really very hard, that incident that happened in the parallel world. Yeah, and the other one that I heard, and this was like back in my career counseling days, was actually one of also a old lady. She works in this like in like Ang Mo Kio, Toa Payoh, there's always some jewelry shop and very old school, maybe there for 50, 60 years and all that. So this lady they're working there for like, it's her first job and her only job for the past 40 years. Wow. Yeah, she was there. So unfortunately what happened was, she the shop has changed owner, right? So it has changed, like, I mean, maybe for the father passed the business to the son. Every day, she told me, every day the son will be in the jewelry shop, right, and walk past her and tell her something like, hey, so and so, you're getting old, right? You're reaching like 60, 65. Maybe it's time. And he leave it as that. He just said, maybe it's time. It might not mean anything, right? But can you imagine it's like pinching you every day? So he actually repeats every time he sees her. Yeah. So when she came to me for career counseling, she actually broke down. Yeah. It was so bad. It was so bad. So that's why I say when you say all those things, I felt the goosebump, because all this are true, and it happened around me before. Yeah.
And I think what I don't know whether I'm jumping the gun here, but across both stories that you shared, that explains why people actually bully. I mean, in the workplace, why people actually bully. It's and research has shown one of the main reasons why people, is not the only reason, but one of the main reasons why people bully is because of this dominance, right? They want to establish their dominance. This, they call it the dominance hypothesis. So for the first story that you mentioned, I don't know why, but this lady, they were trying to establish this dominance over this other guy. I don't know what is it about this guy that caused the ladies to be threatened. So, here I am. I'm trying to establish my dominance. I'm gonna call everyone ally. I don't know whether you all watch Survivor, but that's still my favorite reality TV show. Survivor, right? Get allies, so that I'm like, we are this dominant force against this common enemy that we have. In the second story that you mentioned, or the second scenario that you mentioned, is also about establishing dominance. Like, this business was handed down. I am the new boss. I'm the new owner, so I need to establish my dominance. I need to get rid of, like, what's the old remnants of the previous empire or management. So here I want to start something new. So I think that's what's happening, right? This dominance that they are trying to establish. But underlying this dominance, I would say, is this insecurity. So they feel insecure about this insecurity that causes them to feel dominance, the need to establish their dominance. So therefore they take steps to do so. All right.
Wait. This is like, this is like huge. Wait. So you're saying that this is really huge, because we often see, like just like you mentioned, which is clearly, which I clearly right now can understand why you say dominance, because I think now that you kind of said the word dominance, I think I recall what happened somehow in the first story was that, because when that person joined the team, he was having some new ideas on how to run certain processes. But that team, in terms of the processes, it was established by the few of the ladies. Right. So now you all make sense, because it's all this power struggle that they assume that they're losing power, but actually they are not, but they're just trying to exert more dominance. Yeah. But I want to go to that point you mentioned. You're saying that underlying this kind of domineering behavior is this sense of insecurity.
Yeah. Imagine this, okay? Javier, let's say you are the boss of a company, right? You just started coming in, right? And I'm like number 2, okay? I'm under you, but I have more experience, I have more ideas, and I go like, hey, Javier, let's do this. How about doing this? And you're like, hey, this guy seems to know his stuff, right? And there's if, let's say, you are someone who's like, you know what, he knows his stuff, I know my stuff, we can together work as a team. Will there be any bullying? Will there be any manipulation? No. But now, if I go to you, Javier, this is the situation here. Why don't we change the processes? I think this is good. And you're like, this guy knows his stuff, right? And he's been there for a few years. And what if he is, gonna topple me? If he's gonna take over me, or people respect him more than respect me? What would your response be?
Wow, like I would feel threatened. I guess I would feel very insecure, right? Like, is it that I'm whatever I've designed is not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
and then why would you need to change it?
Yeah, yeah. So if you are secure, there wouldn't be a need to establish the dominance, right? If you are insecure, then there'll be a stronger need to show that, I'm the boss, I'm the one that's in charge, I know my stuff, right? And that would mean being trying to either manipulate the person, backstab the person, and it may include as well the social bullying aspect. Getting other people to come to your side to establish this dominance, because I actually feel insecure about what's going on.
And this doesn't have to come from top down, right? It could be even peers or even subordinates below you
Mm-hmm.
who will do that to you.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. Anyone with that sense of insecurity, right? They would possibly do that as well, right? It doesn't have to be management. I came. The funny thing, right? I came from social. My first job were in social service, and social is not like banks where you like, okay, if you're a performer, your bonus will be maybe 10 months. If you're a B, maybe your bonus will be like 5 months. And it's huge difference, right? In social service, I'm sorry if any one of you is in social service, the bonus will probably be like a half month thing, right? The increment will probably
Kind of
A versus B, the bonus maybe the increment maybe a 200 or 300. But the competition in some places, I'm like, what's up, man? It's just a small thing, and then you are making a big fuss about it. Yeah, you are trying to establish that you are this better person, and it's not so much about the increment. Because if you think about it, right, the effort that creating that alliance, trying to create people on your side, trying to backstab, bring people down, it's not worth the money, honestly, right? But it's more of that. Every one of us have this need to feel good about ourselves, right? And at work is one of the main areas where we turn to feel good about ourselves. So at the workplace, there's this stronger need to try to shine, to show that you are someone. So I wouldn't say it's about the money in the workplace, but it's still back to that sense of identity, sense of self-esteem, and so on, which leads that person that drive or that motivation to go up that ladder or to be someone at the top. Yeah.
Right. I see. Just when you're talking about this, someone made a comment, and Jeremiah, which is one of my best friend, he said something that I thought was quite interesting, right? He said he experienced several managers and bosses, responding with certain coping mechanisms at the workplace that is maybe maladaptive or even harmful. They did not, maybe not mean it that way, but it is a learned way for them. They have, when they're growing up. So, in this case, they don't come with that ill intention, right? It's just like a reaction or a coping mechanism. So maybe in like the case, maybe there are perhaps, just like the example that I share, right? Maybe there's a group of the ladies, but maybe there are one or two who didn't have the intention to want to sideline the other person, right? But there may be that kind of peer pressure, because if I don't conform to this group of people, then I become the outlier, right? I become like the outsider group. Sure, and then I may be the next in line of target. Am I like deciphering right? Is that the psyche?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. I mean, even in if you think about it, right, in those groups, usually there'll be one or two leaders in the group, right? And usually that leaders are the one that runs the show. But you're right, in the sense that it's not always that the person who is bullying or who's like engaging in toxic leadership, for example, if you're talking about the bosses, they have insecurities. Sometimes it's not because they have insecurities, because sometimes it's just other reasons. There are people who are bosses because they are good in their work, right? They may be good accountants, they may be good psychologists, they can be good teachers, whatever. But honestly, because they suck as leaders, they don't know how to lead, right? They are just they get up there because they are good at their level, right? And then so because they are good at this level, they're able to go up. All right, but then when in this level now, I have to lead someone. I have to lead a team, for example, and leading a team is totally different from trying to be good in what you do on your own, and it could be down. I'm not saying that every one of them who do this they are bullies. It could be down to other factors as well, like poor social skills, poor leadership skills, which cause them to like, okay, you know what, I got nothing to do. I mean, not nothing to do. I don't know how else to lead. I need to kind of abuse my power or use my power to arrow. Coming from the army, like I need to arrow this person. If not, nothing gets done. I need to, get or delegate or whatsoever. And it's not because they are meant to be bullies. Sometimes they just don't know how to lead. Yeah.
Right. So I think this conversation is quite interesting, and I hope that it brings certain light to a lot of us who are watching this, and later you're rewatching, is that we know that there are people who bullies for the sake of bullying for whatever reasons we do not know, right? But there are a lot of people who do not have the ill intention, right? They just have, like what Haikal mentioned, a bad social skills or a bad leadership skills, right? Or sometimes maybe they themselves in their leadership position, they have a lot of pressure and stress to deliver and perform, right? For example, and then therefore, every time maybe the CEO wants something, they will say yes, but apparently the team has been overstretched, right, in all directions, and they're just trying to look more things because he needs to look good so that the CEO will look good in that sense, right? So I guess what we have learned so far, and with the recent saga, is let's not always put the bullies in the bad light. I know, I feel that we need to hold them accountable for their behaviors, for their actions. They should be responsible for it. But let's not go into this wipe them out and say, oh, they're all bad people. I guess there is a portion of people out there who, due to circumstances, we all have that need for survival, right? Just now Haikal says survival is paper. Sometimes at the state of survival, something will come out from you that you least expect, and it may not be a true reflection of your true personality, behaviors, or upbringing, right? Right. In psychology, we know, right? Like behaviors can be shaped, and certain situation can evoke certain behaviors, right? Like the prison experiment. And if a lot of you have not, that one's a classic psychology 101 exam question. You always come up. So like the situation will force certain behaviors out, and all that. But again, this is not to say that those bullies should not be held accountable.
You're right. Yeah. Because situation plays a part. Like another factor will be like what you say about the situation, right? Because with the situation, there will be expectations of how you are supposed to behave, and how you are expected to get things done, right? As a leader or as a prison guard in the Stanford prison experiment. Of course, if you're a prison guard and you are this empathetic, therapist, well, I guess it will be awesome, right? But it will take a lot of hard work for a prison guard, I guess. Right. So you're right that there's a lot of factors that we need to consider. If anything, for myself, this is me as a psychologist, how I see it is that this is my belief as well, that whatever coping strategies or how people respond to the situation, it's not, it didn't develop overnight, right? There's a lot of factors, a lot of things which shape them to be who they are. And a person who engaged in bullying is not just, I just feel like becoming the king and so on, and then just throw my power out. It's a lot of things, right? There's the at the very extreme end, it'll be this sense of entitlement. And this sense of entitlement, it's not they grow up and then like, oh, I have this sense of entitlement in me. The experiences, right, led them to have this sense of entitlement. On the other end will be this, like I said, the insecurity, the people who are like, I feel insecure, I need to establish my dominance. And that feelings of insecurity, we probably will need, and I guess that's my job, to dig into why there's this insecurity that occurs. Why does this person have to behave in this way? And of course, taking away a bit of moving away from the topic, this just came to my mind. When my brother was, we were talking about, this was about 2 years ago, we were talking about the Joker movie. I think that was like 2 years ago, the Joker movie. And my
All right.
brother was telling me when we were talking about, oh, I'm going to watch the movie. And my brother said, oh, the movie's a bit sick, it's good, but it's a bit sick. So I watched the Joker movie, and to me, well, normal what to me. I'm not saying that I meet narcissists and people with personality disorders often, but to me, I'm like, well, that story shows why the Joker become the Joker. And I'm not saying that, well, he should go around killing someone, but it provides an explanation of what's happening, the pain underneath. Well, you may see that, well, this guy is like a murderer, this guy is like someone who's manipulative, but there was a lot of pain, a lot of bad experiences which shaped that person to behave that way. And I feel with bullies as well, what we normally know of them is from the surface. We don't know what is the pain or the struggles that they may have experienced through their life that led them to behave in such a way. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so those who receive the bullying, the victims, they only see their pain, which is perfectly normal, right? Because if you're being bullied, you see your own pain. And then for those who are witnessing this whole entire thing, like back then, like for me, right, in that parallel world when I'm observing it, of course I would side with the victims. But I think very often we don't look at the lens of those who bully, right? Like we just mark them and label them as their bad, evil person. But I guess I dare to say maybe 95% of them, they didn't born out to be bullying someone, right? I mean, if you look at like school bullies and all that in like primary school, secondary school, something must have happened along their upbringing, and therefore they needed to assert certain power over someone so that they feel they belong. They feel that they are being seen, right? They are being heard. They are being acknowledged.
Because
In that sense,
I don't know whether you have heard this phrase before. This phrase says, right, hurt people hurt people. Have you heard of this before?
Wait. No. Do that again. Do that again.
Hurt people hurt people. What do you gather from that?
Oh, okay, right. So, okay, a little bit of English here, but I guess what you're trying to say here in this statement is that people who are hurt, they end up hurting people. Am I right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I mean, right? There's that build up. There's some hurt, there's some pain that they've experienced, and well, because of the pain, because they don't know how to cope with this, sometimes because of poor modeling of how to respond to this pain, they end up hurting other people as well. And for those who are listening to this and wondering like, what is this psychologist doing? How come he's siding with the bullies? I'm not siding with the bullies. What I think what I'm trying to say here is that if you have been bullied before, maybe this would be useful information to help you to move on, to help you to get over the pain that you have experienced. On the other hand, if you are someone who is being the bully, well, maybe do a bit of introspection on why is it that you behave in this way. So this hurt people thing, right, is meant to benefit both the bullies as well as those who are being bullied, not siding with any of those or both sides of the coin. Yeah.
Right. Or you all can look for Haikal, right? You all can look for him. Yeah. the bullies and those who are being bullied. I think that's very true, and I've learned it somewhere is that people who get the hurt is so overbearing for them, so they need to pass it to someone.
Yes.
They need to offload it to someone because it's too much for them to handle, right? And this is actually how we are behaving on a day-to-day basis, right? When we have too much stress at work and then we cannot bring it back home. Because it's too much for us at work. Maybe we get scolded and all that, and then we bring that kind of bad emotion back home. I guess it's something similar in that train, right? Whereby they have received so much hurt, and then they wanted to offload it. Yeah. Okay. So I hope, again, I think Haikal brought a very good point, which is we are not siding with the bullies, right? Of course, today we are talking about navigating toxic workplace, but because I feel that, and this was something that me and Haikal kind of talked about it before this session, was that I think a lot of conversations, a lot of articles always talk about the victims. Yes, and I think we hear you, right? And I think nobody deserves to be bullied. Nobody. This is very clear. But I think there's very little that talks about those who bully, right? And we often just see them as they're evil and all that. But I think practicing a little empathy, and I think it's hard to practice empathy when perhaps you are the one being bullied or you are witnessing all that. It's very, very hard. But I cannot understand why Haikal say that it is part of your recovery there, because when you're able to practice that empathy, which is hard at that point in time when you get it, right? Sometimes it takes a while, maybe after the whole incident, maybe about 1 or 2 years later. But when you practice the empathy and you realize that that person, that bully, actually is being hurt as much as you were and you are.
It's just that you
right?
don't know it.
Right. So okay, wow. Okay, this is like poop. Um okay, so right now let's shift the focus a little bit on every one of us, right? Which is the general public, right? So how can we go about protecting ourselves? Like, how can we protect ourselves from all this? Or maybe for those who are somehow in this, unfortunately, in this kind of toxic workplace, whether is it workplace bullies or toxic culture, like very gossipy culture, unrealistic timelines, or like manipulative bosses and all that, what can they do?
Right. So I feel that just now I mentioned that the impact of bullying there'll be a lot of emotional impact, be it physical or emotional bullying. There'll be a lot of emotional impact because there is this lack of safety. And so what you need to do will be to find ways to create this sense of safety. And two things come at the top of my mind. One of it will be for you to be able to find someone, right? Because when there's no physical safety, we are being isolated, you feel very alone. Find someone. It could be someone in the workplace. It could be someone out of the workplace. Share what you're going through, the struggles that you face, so that there is this third party perspective into what's going on. Because you may think that, there's something wrong about me, everyone's against me. Is it me, or is it them? And it's very easy to put the blame on you. If the more people are against you, the more easy it will be for you to blame yourself. All right, reach out to someone out of the company, in the company. If it's in the company and everyone everyone feels that as if it's against you, then I would say go to the HR. If the HR is against you, I guess something is wrong with the company.
I
Maybe it's
will
time,
do the HR.
right? If you go to the HR and the HR is also taking sides and is also engaged in the same toxic behavior, then perhaps the workplace itself will not be something that's good. I think the other one to find that sense of safety would be to build your identity out of the workplace. You see, because again, there is we have a lot of we place a lot of emphasis on our identity in the workplace. If I introduce, any one of us introduce ourselves to each other, right? First, we'll say our name. Then, second thing, what we'll say? Our job, right?
Yeah.
Common thing, like I'm Haikal, I'm a psychologist, right? Number two already, and because it's number two on our list of who we are in terms of our identity, it has a very powerful impact if our workplace doesn't feel like it's safe for us, especially if the people around you are asking you about workplace. I mean, if you hate your workplace, you don't feel safe, and people, you go for, I don't know, like Christmas gatherings, Chinese New Year, like, oh, how's the work and all that, and it sucks, right? People are actually bullying me. I'm being slapped at work. Everyone's ganging out with, and how do you talk about it? So having this sense of identity, be it in your own family, your own interests, hobbies, things that you want, new things that you want to try, that will also help build some protective factors. Okay, so of course, speaking to someone, there'll be a very big one, and having the next one, right, having these protective factors will somewhat cushion the impact of bullying onto you. And I've seen that sometimes where people go like, you know what, okay lah, you do whatever you want to me lah, right? I mean, of course, I don't encourage that, but after that, I know, right? My priority, for example, is my family. What I'm going to do is, for example, I'm going to the gym and work out, and I have this like safe space away from the workplace. So I would say those are the top two things in a way to create this sense of safety for yourself out of the workplace.
Right. Okay.
Mm,
But I mean, those are really good things, and I think that I
mm,
like the part about building an identity of the workplace. I mean,
mm,
the fact of the matter is, we all know we spend 8 to 10 hours at work, and therefore that forms out a lot of ourselves, right? We
mm,
we we get money out from it, we get recognition out from it, we get power out of it.
yeah.
But I guess building identity out of that work actually also help potential bullies, right? Because then you realize that you actually don't need to, get recognition or dominance or power
Mm,
through work, right? There's also other areas that you can build up your self identity.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But just very interestingly, when do you know enough is enough? Like just now you mentioned, there are those who just you know just go through and all that, but there's only so much resilience
Mm,
should be, right,
mm,
like
mm,
you know.
mm,
So where do you draw that line? Because why I'm asking this, right, is because I'm not sure if you're aware, but I think perhaps you might have read it briefly, and I think a lot of HR person kind of read it. Is there's this thing called the Great Resignation starting in June, where people just screw it, I'm not going to work anymore. They just throw the letter and then they just walk out. Maybe
right.
sometimes, and I think in a lot of them, which a lot of studies in the US show, is actually very bad work culture, bad bosses, overwork, and stuff like that. They're tired, they're burnout, etc. Right?
Mhm,
Um, but I'm not totally for the Great Resignation, because I feel that you shouldn't just because a very small thing and then you decide to throw letter and you walked away, right? And but the fact
mhm,
of many is a lot of the uh, millennials or Gen Z tend to do this, like, oh, my boss scold me, nah, there you go, and I walk off,
mm,
right? So when you draw the line between that like between being resilient at the same time, like enough is enough.
yeah, because that line is a very fine but gray. You don't really know when enough is enough, and I feel that there's a few clues that you can think you can consider. I wouldn't say there's one actual indicator.
Like
There's a
different
few clues,
markers.
yeah, that you can think about. I feel one very big one about toxic workplace is that if everyone if everyone around you feels that it's toxic, right? There's this boss is like that, and everyone's talking about like leaving and whatever. I think that's one big indicator that something is wrong about the workplace, right? And this is a toxic environment. But if you're talking about, say, with bullying, where it's a more of a one-on-one kind of situation, or like one versus a few, it's not like such a very toxic environment in the workplace. Then the other one I would say is, how much impact does it have on your emotional and mental health? When you realize that
Mm.
that level of motivation is down, that you are struggling to get up, go to work, and you're just looking forward to the end of the day, right? That's another big indicator, and of course that big indicator would be because, I mean, this lack of motivation is because of what's going on around you, the way that people are treating you, be it how they are rude to you, how they are being disrespected, or whatsoever. And therefore, and it's not really just about like work itself, it's about the environment. Well, I think that's one big indicator already, right? So compare that level of motivation, and you can do it in a very simple way, right? Rate,
Mhm.
you can give it a 1 to 10 kind of rating. The first day that you start work, how do you feel? Most people say that first day, people will say that I'm
Right.
here, gonna make impact, right? Things gonna be changed. Oh, I'm gonna be this. Then after 1 week, you just slowly go down. And I would say that's very natural. Everyone comes in and say that, I'm gonna make a difference. I'm gonna try this, and there's this, I think, Chinese saying. I always hear this. People say that, what the new broom always sweep clean, right?
Oh,
And
really?
that's that saying. Like, oh, new broom sweep clean, right? Come in, want to do this change, and or
Okay.
but then after some time, yeah, like the what was the utility goes down. I forgot what's the name. This is the economic term. Yeah, the effectiveness goes down, and I would say that is very normal. But if it goes below something that is positive for you, you find yourself dragging, you find yourself being upset. about going to work. I think that's very, very, very big indicator for yourself. And maybe it's time to think like, what's going on here? What's wrong? So think about it. Scale of 1 to 10. What was it like when you start, and where is it now? And of course, if you say that, well, I'm a 4, I'm a 3, I would say take some responsibility for a bit. What have you done? I'm not saying that if it's 3, like, oh, it's 3. You know, Haikal say 1 to 10. If it's 3, then I'm going to leave. Then what? But at the same time, 3. What have you done to try to make that 3 into a 5, right? But if you have taken steps, you have spoken to your boss, you have spoken to your colleagues, you have tried to, I don't know, depends on the kind of environment you have been. You're trying to be nice. You've spoken to your HR, but then it's still stuck at 3. Then okay lah. I guess before the 3 becomes a 2, then maybe it's time to look somewhere. Yeah. So be aware first, and then see what action you can take. And if that action's just being blocked, you find yourself going nowhere, then I guess that's time to
Right.
type out some letters.
Right. But of course, if you got hit, then I guess you should just go and complain already and
Me, I'll hit back.
but okay, right now on this point, so right now I think that's something exciting, interesting. Should the victims, I did just this just came in. Should the victims or people who experience the workplace bullying confront? Is it wise to confront the bullies?
Yeah, I would say yes, it would be wise to confront, but it's one thing to confront on impulse, and it's another thing to confront in a wise manner, right?
Okay, so how do we do it wisely?
Well, I mean, if okay, I think the very easy option would be to do it on impulse, right? Like what I mentioned just now. Oh, you know, my boss hit me, I'm probably gonna hit back. I don't know whether I'll do that. Never happened to me. But in the alternate universe, in the multiverse, if you all don't know, I'm a Marvel fan, right?
Me too.
So if you realize my IG handle is actually a wordplay of a Marvel character. If you realize, yeah, the psychotherapist, so it's therapist Thor combined together. Yeah. So
you're a Thor.
Yeah, I'm a Thor fan. Yeah. So in the multiverse, yeah, if that happens, I don't discount the fact that I may do that, but of course I don't encourage that. So what I mean, I would say that you would have to be wise, and what I mean by being wise, well, understand what is the reason that the bully is doing this. What's the reason, right? Is it like dominance, right? If is this poor person is, well, like what you mentioned, let's go back to that story so that we have a scenario. You know that this group of ladies, they are the ones that come up with this program or whatsoever, and this guy came in like, well, I have a better program, right? And they are bullying him and all that. Well, one way that he can try to, if he doesn't want to leave, to make things work, would be like, maybe a bit like angkat a bit and ask them like, hey, you create this program, right? Right. What can I understand about it more? Of course, maybe because you come in and then you throw them like, I have this better idea, that they feel threatened, right? Back to the inferiority. But hey, this program, oh yeah, okay, sounds good, right? This is good and blah blah blah. And hey, I have this thing. So there's a like, this is your solution, this is my solution. Can we come up with a we solution? Can we work together as a team, right? So I would say that's a wise kind of example. And if let's say, well, here I am trying to come up with a middle ground. Here I am trying to combine the best of your idea and my idea, and you're like, no, I'm not going to listen to you. Well, perhaps then you need to come up with another way to deal with this, right? If especially, right, okay, I tried working with you, but then you are and you don't want, and that's fine, right? But you don't want to work with me, but you are still backstabbing me, you are making people dislike me. Well, I'll probably go with what's wrong here? Like I'm trying, and because you have tried to be wise, you have tried to reach out, build bridge, right? I have been nice to you, I've tried to understand you, I tried to build friendships with you, but then I still hear you do this, right? What's going on here? All right. So I would say that would be a wise way to confront. So a wise way to confront won't just be a one step or two step. It'll probably be a few steps, right? And for the older lady, one way I would think like, well, you keep saying about that. It's time. It's time. What is the, well, this is me again. I'm like a Marvel fan, fighter. Like it's time. No, in UFC, right? It's time means this is the main event, right? We go 5 rounds. But what does it's time means? If you have something to say, I would like, I would, of course, say it in a respectful way first. Like, what is it? I don't really understand. Sometimes being just act blur, right? I don't understand. Help me understand. And the thing is, these people, if you try to reach out to them and in a way you call out their shit, you'll be stuck like, oh, how do I explain myself? Like how they say about people make
Right.
some racist joke, sexist joke, like it's funny, right? Then like explain to me how it's funny, and they'll be like, I'm uncomfortable. So I
Right.
would try to find ways to reach out to them. I want to hear you. Do it in a mature way. Do it in a way where like, I'm willing to listen, and I'm giving you this opportunity to make things right together with me. It's up to you to accept it or not. Yeah.
Right. And I think this is really very good tips because um a lot of what we have seen in the past two saga that happened in Singapore,
Mm,
people call out these behaviors. But the thing is, I think people have kind of abused the word call out. They thought that they do it in form of social justice or like doing justice to them, um, but I think a lot of times they did it on impulse, right? So
mhm,
what they did in this case is was they flash out on social media to call out those behaviors.
mm,
Um, but I think I'm with you that I think there are um, more professional ways to do it.
mhm,
One thing that I'm being taught by my sister, who taught me from very, very young, and she told me this: two wrongs don't make things right. So
mhm,
just because someone did something bad or or bullying you, getting back that person by flashing it on social media, putting it on LinkedIn, putting it on Instagram, putting it on some, I don't know, SG chicken rice or whatever, and you think that that is the way to get back your justice. But
mm,
to be honest, you are just equally as fault as the other party,
yeah.
right? You're also bullying, right? You're bullying then this person on social media, right?
So
It
this
does,
is
does
yeah. So this is where that cycle of hurt people comes back again, right?
oh
So
right.
they were hurt, and then now they start hurting, well, hurting other people or hurt people back. Um, and I would say again, now I am trying to empathize with those who were bullied and now become the bully, because, well, when they were bullied, they were being, it was I guess they were suppressing their emotions, and now, well, I find a way to let out of this emotion, and then there is this consequence on those people that hurt me. Well, at least the emotional, at the intellectual
Right.
level will be another thing, but at the emotional level, well, you feel good, right? If let's say someone is treating you bad and then you see this person hurting, but you've been like holding this in for so long, well, it will feel good, and that cycle of hurt people comes back on again. And those people who jump on the bandwagon, who comment and all that, well, sometimes I just read that, I'm like, well, I guess something might have happened to these people as well. That's why they jump on the bandwagon. That's why there's all this negativity that
Yeah.
adds on and accumulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Mm,
but I can also understand why people take it onto social media in that case because they perhaps have kept it with them for so long, and they were not in a safe space to talk about all these even beforehand, right? So it's just kind of like a explosion of what has been accumulated over years
yeah.
and all that.
Mm,
Yeah, so I think riding on Heikel's advice, I wasn't giving the same advice. Is there are more professional ways to do it, right? And I think just now what Heikel mentioned is a few things, right? Number one is you can give the benefit of doubt, right? So maybe that person may have said it out of a I don't know funny angle, and then of course you can question it and say why do you think that is funny? Why do you think that
mm,
racist remark was funny? And the thing
mm,
is, by you calling out this kind of comments out perhaps in the meetings and all that doesn't make you a bad person, right? But But of course, you don't be rude, right? Okay, because just because the other person is rude doesn't mean it gives you the right to be rude as well, right? But you can call it out professionally, and sometimes be very open and say, I don't think that's the right thing to say in front of the ladies, or I don't think that's right to say in front of us, right? I think all of us have the responsibility, not just the one receiving the bully or receive the bullying, but I think everyone else, we are all responsible, right? Sometimes, I mean, again, back into that parallel universe where I was at, I was equally at fault because I chose to bystand. Right? I mean, now I feel guilty because I didn't do anything. I actually, those who bystand, when you could have helped someone, you are also helping to, you are actually in a way also giving green light that this is okay.
Enabling.
You're right. You are giving that this is okay. So I think for those who are, who are being bullied, I think what Haikal is mentioning is that question, like, have tried as much as possible to have a conversation with that person before you just decide to throw the letter. Of course, if you are caught in an extreme situation like life or death, just go already lah. Don't need to engage any conversation.
Again, don't have to base your identity on being a successful person in
just
whatever job you're in right now. Yeah.
But I think have that conversation, and sometimes when you do that, sometimes actually most of the bullies, right, when you do that towards them, right, they actually got taken, they will fall off their chair because they thought that nobody will actually go against them, but you, by saying that, they actually caught them off guard. And then perhaps sometimes they know, you're not to mess around with because you are willing to call out the behaviors professionally, right? And to those who are, if you're witnessing and all that, maybe you may not be comfortable in confronting that person, but what you can do is actually then lend a helping hand to the one who got bullied, right? At least be a form of support to that person, I guess, right?
Yes.
I mean that's the very least you can do, and maybe you can advise the person to say, do you want to speak to HR about this? So there are proper ways, everyone. There are proper ways. Please don't kind of discount HR. Don't discount HR that we are useless and we cannot help with anything. I've seen those that are not very helpful HR in that sense.
I mean, one of the common myths I hear, and I hear that a lot, like the HR always sides with the management. True or false? I don't know. This is your for you to answer.
I'm gonna offend a lot of people. No, I hear you. I'm very honest on my platform. I hear you, and I think that's true, right? But you see, it all goes back to the same thing, because HR, even we are in the role of HR, we are also an employee, we are also a staff, we are also someone. And if we were to, say, take side, or even to go into investigating, like to kickstart that investigation,
right?
We are also being targeted, right? Because again, it's about that. We all learn in business school about this thing about power distance, right? And all that. So we will also get very scared if, we are not that we purposely want to side, but because we also don't want to be on the target board next. So, I do have, I've heard colleagues who, not colleagues, I heard friends who actually went to speak to HR. It's like a drainer. They know that saying it, you will not go anywhere, right? But they just want to make it the case in point. But a lot of times, it doesn't work out. But I told them that no, even though you think you can see like 10,000 miles, right? Like how Doctor Strange can see the ending, don't know how many million times. You should still talk to HR, right? You should still do it the very proper way. Because the last thing you want is you do it in the improper way. You take it to Facebook, you take it to Instagram, and you shout about it. As I said, you're also equally at fault by doing that. So when you do it professionally, then there's no fault against you, right? Like you are doing it professionally. You are properly escalating it. So that is why I always tell some of my friends, when they encounter this, not the extreme bullying type, but it's just like, they find that there's nothing going to come out from HR, because HR, sometimes their HR in their perception may take side with the management. But I say, who knows? Maybe you just met one HR who's willing to, kickstart that whole process on investigating. And I think like what Haikal mentioned is like, do it like, like don't be too quickly to give up on the whole situation, right? Do your best. And if you really have to say, you know what, this is it, I can't deal with this anymore, at least you can answer to your conscience and say you did your part by whether calling out the behaviors, by trying to build a conversation with that person, even escalating to HR and there's nothing done. You can touch your head and say, yeah, I've done my part, and I can walk away with a clear conscience.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and great. I mean, great to hear the truth that, like what you say, and I think that's right. But I think that's a good point that you're saying that yes, because the HR is still part of the stuff, right? But then I think that builds up to what I mentioned just now about dealing with it in a wise way and approaching the HR sounds like one of the valid plans for people to overcome whatever difficulties that they may have. I mean, because that's the purpose of HR, right? It's a viable route for them to express, to figure things out, because they are part of the role. Yeah.
And I just want to take like one minute to talk to all my HR friends. Is I know you are afraid. I've been in that position. I know you are afraid. But the fact of the matter is, we are in this role of HR. Most of us have the intention or the heart to care for the people. If not, we will not be in HR. We rather be in finance, right? We just deal with numbers and love figures and all that. But we didn't, right? We choose the most human part of things, which is HR. So deep down within you, right? You do care for the people. I'm not saying that whoever comes to you and say they want to escalate, which means that they are right and their managers are wrong or their peers are wrong. But what you want or what you can do and what you should do is to create a process that helps to clarify all this. Because I feel that if you don't do it, you actually enabling it, like what Haikal said, you are enabling it, you are letting it nurture, it will grow to a point that one day you realize, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything to stop it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I'm just to add on to that, what you said, like not from coming from someone from a HR perspective. I mean, look at the patterns. I mean, I guess this is to the HR people, right? Look at the patterns. If let's say someone comes and say that, I have this problem with this boss, or I have this problem with this department. One person say, well, maybe this is an aberration. 2% says then, hey, something's up, right? And then just saying like sometimes it comes up over and over again, but then nothing gets done, right? Then I think that's where the responsibility lies in the HR and the management. Yeah, because I have an organization where you're like, well, we go to exit interviews, and I know my colleagues say that, right? The colleague before me say that, I say that, and sometimes during an interview, the exit interview, the person who is there, be it the director or the HR person, will go like, yeah, we've heard of that.
I had that.
Yeah, and right. Hey, you never see the pattern, and yeah, if you see that pattern repeating itself, right? I guess something needs to be done. I don't know by who, right? But I guess something needs to be done. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the whole COVID has actually changed a lot of us, even a lot of us in terms of our work priorities and our work focus. And we no longer think that just because of money, I need to slog in a place that doesn't appreciate me and is toxic and all that. People right now feel that, you know what? I can walk out of it, right? And so to a lot of HR or leaders who are just questioning, oh no, why do I have like very high turnover? Maybe it's time to think about it. Like maybe you should really go and take a serious look at all your exit interviews. I always say exit interviews are too late.
Yeah,
it's too late. Yeah, the thing is, your peers, your colleagues, your staff has been giving you signals, but you have failed to pick up. So when you come to exit interview, it's all too late, right? but the thing is, at least there's still some data there. So you should look at all these, and maybe there are certain things that you need to rectify, and sometimes it could be people, like what Haikal mentioned, right? The thing is, to be honest, in all organizations, they're bound to be like 1%. There will be this 1%. In that sense, and I think to wrap it up, and before I hand over to Haikal, if I need to add on, is I always have this analogy. Whether is it workplace bullies or whatsoever, imagine like a fish tank. There's algae and there's fishes. If you don't clean the algae, the fishes will die. So you have to periodically clean up the algae. Yeah, this is what I always believe in. Yeah. So Haikal, anything you want to kind of let the listeners or the watchers audience kind of take away from this?
I think one thing to take away, for those who are for you to reflect on, and this will come out as maybe as a bomb as well, would be, well, if you are the victim of bullying, just now I mentioned about the dominance hypothesis. This may sound ironic, right? If you are the victim of bullying, it probably means that you are doing something right. And because you are doing something right, a person would want to establish that dominance against you. Because if you are a lousy worker, you suck, right? No one's going to care about you. They're just going to let you rot down there, right? They don't see you as competition. But because you are doing something right, people are threatened. There is this need to overcome you, to establish dominance over you. So you don't have to be afraid to seek help from the HR, to find wise ways to overcome it. Because if you are doing something right, then you are probably valuable enough, right? These people, actually bullying, right, especially the over and over kind of thing, it takes a lot of effort, okay, right? They don't realize it lah, but it takes a lot of effort to bully you. And
there's a plan, like what they should do today.
Yeah, so there's something worthwhile about you for them to bully, and because there's this worthwhileness for them to bully you, it means that you're doing something right, and it's also, I guess, worthwhile for you then to stand your ground, assert your boundaries, speak to HR. I don't know, whatever it is, right? To come up with whatever wise response there is to the situation that you're in.
Yeah, I think you said something that really connect with me strongly is, I think, please, I think for those out there who may encounter bullying down the road or toxic workplaces down the road, or right now you are going through this process, please don't let the bullies determine your own self-worth and identity. It is not a true reflection of who you are. I mean, okay, you might have screwed something up, right? You may have just put 1 0 less in that numbers and all that. But who doesn't make mistakes? We all do. But please don't let them kind of decide. And I think often or not, we often do that, right? If we look at Facebook, when we have 100 comments on our photograph, and there's just one that that says, "Oh, you look ugly in that photo," we pay attention to that one versus the 99 who just kind of praise you and all that. So please don't let the bullying kind of determine define who you are and what you are worthy of. Please don't do that. I know it's very hard. I know at that moment when I to be honest, I went through bullying before when I was in primary school, all the way when I grew up. I understand what you mean. I understand how it feels. At that point in time, I couldn't see that. I know it's very hard to see that. It's very, very hard because all you can see is the pain. All you can think of is what am I not doing right? Why are they hating me? Why are they silencing me and all that? But I just hope that, I'm not sure whether there's a way to do it, but I just hope that you think about the 99 good comments about you, and rather than just keep focusing on that one not so nice comment about you. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Haikal, for this conversation. I promised you 10:30, but again, I told you we wouldn't. But it was a good one. Yeah.
Thanks.
And we hope that everyone out there who listens to this, we hope you take back and take away with you something, whether you are the one who is going through that process of going the toxic, working the toxic workplace, for those who are witnessing this kind of toxic workplace, even for the bullies out there. I hope that you kind of think about it, right? Kind of reflect upon yourself. But if anything, if you need to talk to someone and all that, maybe you can connect with Haikal. I'll put his LinkedIn profile there and the business detail there. You can always reach out to him and all that. So all right, we hope everyone is stay safe, stay healthy, get your booster shot, hopefully soon. And otherwise, thank you, Haikal, for joining me.
Yes, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you so
staying
much.
over, and yeah.
All right.
All right.
So good night, everyone. Bye bye.
Take care.